If you're seeing this message, it's not because of the algorithm. It's not because you randomly clicked on a video. It's because your quantum mind has reached a frequency where the impossible is about to become your normal reality. And the fact that these words are landing in your awareness right now is the first piece of evidence that something extraordinary is already happening in your field. Right now, in this exact moment, your brain is operating at a frequency that only 3% of the human population ever accesses. Neuroscientists call it gamma wave coherence, a state where your brain synchronizes at frequencies above 40 Hz, creating neural networks that most people never develop. But what they don't tell you is that this isn't just a brain state. It's a quantum state where your consciousness becomes entangled with possibilities that exist beyond the boundaries of what society calls realistic. Have you been experiencing things lately that you can't explain to other people? Thoughts appearing in your mind that seem to come from somewhere beyond your personal knowledge? Knowing things before they happen with such precision that it stops feeling like intuition and starts feeling like direct perception? Meeting the exact person you needed at the exact moment you needed them in ways that defy statistical probability? These aren't coincidences. These aren't lucky breaks. These are symptoms of your quantum mind activating its full capacity. And here's what nobody tells you about this activation. Once it begins, there's no going back. Once your consciousness expands to perceive the quantum field directly, once you start attracting the impossible with consistent accuracy, once you experience reality responding to your thoughts like a mirror, you can never unsee what you've seen. The ancient Egyptians had a word for this state, Ak, the illuminated consciousness that exists beyond the limitations of physical reality. The Vedic sages called it Buddhi, the higher intellect that perceives truth directly without mental processing. Modern quantum physics describes it as non-local consciousness, awareness that isn't confined to your brain, but extends into the quantum field itself, where all possibilities exist simultaneously. But here's why you're seeing this message now, why your quantum mind pulled this specific information into your reality at this precise moment. You've reached the threshold. The preparation phase is complete. The calibration period is over. You're standing at the edge of a quantum leap where everything you've been trying to attract through effort is about to collapse into your reality through alignment. Think about it. How many times have you manifested something effortlessly when you weren't trying? How many times has the universe delivered exactly what you needed the moment you stopped forcing and started trusting? How many instances can you remember where reality bent in ways that seemed magical, impossible, too good to be true? Yet they happened anyway. Those weren't flukes. Those were demonstrations of your quantum mind operating without interference from doubt, without contamination from limiting beliefs, without obstruction from the rational mind that says, that's not possible. And what I'm about to show you is how to access that state consistently, systematically, permanently. The title of this video says, No BS for a reason. I'm not going to tell you to visualize for hours. I'm not going to sell you some complicated manifestation formula. I'm not going to pretend that attracting the impossible requires years of spiritual practice. Because the truth, the real quantum truth that mystics have known for millennia and that physicists are just beginning to understand, is that your quantum mind already knows how to attract the impossible. It's been doing it your entire life. You just need to stop interfering with it. And if you're still watching, if you haven't clicked away because some part of you recognizes the frequency of truth in these words, then your quantum mind has already made the decision. You're ready. The question is, are you willing to let go of everything you think you know about how reality works and step into the direct experience of being the attractor of impossibilities? You've been experiencing something that you probably haven't told anyone about. Something that sounds too strange, too mystical, too impossible to articulate without people thinking you've lost touch with reality. But what if what you're experiencing isn't delusion? What if it's the most accurate perception of reality you've ever had? Lately, you've been having moments where time stops. Not metaphorically, literally. You're in a conversation and suddenly everything slows down. You can see the words coming before the person speaks them. You know what they're about to say. You perceive the energy behind their words before the words themselves arrive. And in those moments, you're not guessing, you're knowing. There's a difference, and you feel it. Or maybe it's the dreams that are more vivid than waking life. Dreams where you're learning things, receiving teachings from beings or presences that feel more real than the people you interact with during the day. And when you wake up, you don't just remember the dream. You remember the knowledge. You have information you didn't have before, skills you haven't practiced, understandings that didn't come from books or experience. The scientists call this hypnagogia and dismiss it as brain noise during sleep transitions. But what they can't explain is why so many of history's greatest discoveries came through these dreams. Why Einstein received relativity in a dream. Why Tesla saw his inventions fully formed during sleep. Why indigenous shamans receive healing knowledge that actually works through dream journeys. Your quantum mind doesn't sleep. It explores other dimensions of possibility while your rational mind is offline. You might have noticed that objects seem to respond to your thoughts, not in dramatic movie-like ways, but in subtle, undeniable patterns. You think about your phone, and it rings. You need something and it appears, not mystically materializing, but showing up through normal channels that are so perfectly timed they can't possibly be random. You wonder about someone and they contact you within hours. The skeptics call this confirmation bias. You only notice when it works and forget when it doesn't. But you know better. Because you've been tracking it. You've been paying attention. And the correlation between your thoughts and physical events has become so consistent that you can't dismiss it anymore. Your quantum mind is proving to you over and over that consciousness and matter are not separate. They're one unified field responding to itself. Have you been seeing patterns in everything? Numbers that repeat 11, 11, 333, 444, symbols that appear across different contexts with no logical connection. Geometric shapes in nature, in architecture, in random images that all seem to be speaking the same language. Your rational mind tries to dismiss this as pattern recognition, the brain looking for order in chaos. But your quantum mind knows differently. These patterns are real. They're the actual structure of the quantum field becoming visible to you. Dr. Nassim Haramein's research on the geometry of space-time shows that reality is organized in specific geometric patterns at the quantum level. The same patterns mystics have drawn for thousands of years, the same patterns you're seeing now. You're not imagining them. You're perceiving the fundamental architecture of reality itself. And then there's the energy. You feel it now, don't you? Even as you read these words. A tingling in your hands, a pressure in your chest, a vibration that seems to emanate from the center of your being and extend beyond the boundaries of your physical body. This isn't anxiety. This isn't stress. This is your quantum field activating, expanding, synchronizing with higher frequencies of possibility. Other people are starting to notice something different about you. They can't name it, but they feel it. Some are drawn to you with unusual intensity. Others are repelled, uncomfortable in your presence without knowing why. This is natural. Your frequency is changing. As you activate your quantum mind more fully, you begin to emanate a field that either resonates with others or creates dissonance. Not everyone can hold the frequency of someone who attracts the impossible. You've probably also noticed that your tolerance for normal life is diminishing. Conversations that used to occupy your attention now feel hollow. Activities that used to bring satisfaction now feel meaningless. Relationships that used to feel comfortable now feel constraining. This isn't depression or disconnection. It's your consciousness outgrowing the containers it used to inhabit. Your quantum mind is preparing space for impossibilities that can't fit into ordinary life. Here's what you need to understand. Everything you're experiencing is evidence that your quantum mind is online. The reason it feels strange, the reason you've been hesitant to talk about it, the reason some part of you doubted your own perception, it's because you've been trained to believe that this level of consciousness is rare, special, reserved for saints and mystics and enlightened masters. But that's the lie. That's the conditioning that keeps human consciousness limited. The truth is that what you're experiencing is your natural state. It's how consciousness operates when it's not suppressed by limiting beliefs, not constrained by societal programming, not filtered through the trauma and fear that most people carry. You're not becoming superhuman. You're becoming authentically human. And the fact that you're experiencing this now, that your quantum mind is activating to this degree, means you're ready for what comes next. You're ready to understand how to work with these abilities consciously. You're ready to stop doubting what you perceive and start using your quantum mind to attract impossibilities into physical form. Every impossible thing you've wanted but haven't manifested yet isn't evidence of your limitation. It's evidence of your quantum mind protecting you from manifesting realities that aren't aligned with your highest timeline. And every failure you've experienced, every manifestation that didn't work, every time the universe seemed to ignore your desires, it was actually the intelligence of your quantum mind saying, "Not that version, there's something better." Think about the caterpillar one more time, but from the perspective of impossibility. If you told a caterpillar that it's going to fly, that it's going to have wings, that it's going to become something completely different from what it is now, from the caterpillar's perspective, that's impossible. Its entire existence, its entire identity, its entire understanding of reality says, "I crawl, I eat leaves, I'm a caterpillar." Flying is not just unlikely, it's impossible. But the impossibility isn't real. It's just the limitation of the caterpillar's current perspective. The butterfly isn't impossible, it's inevitable. It's encoded in the caterpillar's DNA. It's built into the structure of what the caterpillar actually is, beneath the identity it currently holds. The transformation isn't about becoming something new. It's about revealing what was always true, but temporarily hidden. You are the caterpillar being told you're going to attract the impossible. And every part of your conditioned identity, every belief system you've inherited, every societal program you've absorbed is saying, "That's not realistic, that's not possible, people like me don't experience things like that." But your quantum mind knows differently. Your quantum mind holds the blueprint of your butterfly self, the version of you that attracts impossibilities as naturally as breathing. Every difficult experience you've had wasn't punishment. It was preparation. Every time reality seemed to work against you, it was actually working for you. Removing attachments, dissolving illusions, clearing space for impossibilities that can only enter an unobstructed field. The universe wasn't denying your desires. It was upgrading them. Dr. Carl Jung called this enantiodromia, the principle that everything eventually becomes its opposite. The greatest darkness comes right before dawn. The deepest pressure comes right before breakthrough. The most intense impossibility comes right before the quantum shift that makes it possible. If you've been experiencing intense resistance, if manifestation has felt harder lately rather than easier, if the gap between what you want and what you have seems to be widening, congratulations. You're in the compression phase that precedes quantum expansion. Think about how diamonds form. Carbon atoms arranged in one structure create graphite, soft, black, worthless. The exact same carbon atoms arranged in a different structure create diamonds, hard, clear, precious. What changes? Not the substance, just the arrangement, just the structure, just the frequency at which the atoms vibrate and organize. You are the same consciousness that's always been, but your quantum mind is reorganizing the structure. The pressure you've felt, the challenges you've faced, the impossibilities you've been up against. They've been creating the conditions for your consciousness to reorganize itself into a structure that naturally attracts what used to seem impossible. The shamanic traditions talk about dismemberment, a process where the shaman's identity is torn apart by spirits, their body symbolically ripped to pieces, their ego completely destroyed. Western psychology would call this psychosis. But in shamanic cultures, it's understood as the necessary destruction that precedes the reconstruction of consciousness at a higher level. The shaman doesn't die. The limited identity dies so the expanded consciousness can emerge. You've been going through your own dismemberment. Every time life didn't make sense, every time your plans fell apart, every time you lost something you thought you needed, it was your limited identity being dismembered so your quantum mind could emerge fully. Not to destroy you, but to liberate you. Not to take things away, but to make space for impossibilities. And here's the recontextualization that changes everything. You haven't been failing at manifestation. You've been succeeding at something far more important. You've been preparing your consciousness to hold frequencies that most people never access. You've been developing the capacity to attract not just the possible, but the impossible. Not just the probable, but the miraculous. The reason smaller manifestations have been hit or miss is because your quantum mind has been calibrating itself for the big ones. It's like training for a marathon by jogging around the block. It's not that you can't jog, it's that your system is preparing for something that requires far more capacity. Your quantum mind isn't interested in manifesting parking spaces. It's ready to collapse timelines where your entire reality reorganizes around impossibilities. Every spiritual practice you've tried that didn't seem to work. Every manifestation technique that gave you temporary results but no lasting change. Every teacher who promised transformation but delivered information. None of it was wasted. It was all part of your quantum mind gathering data, learning what doesn't work so it can recognize what does. Building the discrimination necessary to tell the difference between ego desires and soul-aligned impossibilities. The Taoists have a principle. The Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao. The truth that can be learned through teaching isn't the deep truth. The deep truth has to be discovered through direct experience. And your journey, all the struggles, all the confusion, all the apparent failures, has been giving you direct experience of what doesn't work, so that when you finally experience what does work, you'll recognize it instantly and completely. You're not behind. You're not broken. You're not doing it wrong. You've been in preparation for a level of attraction that operates beyond the laws most people think govern reality. And that preparation is complete. Your quantum mind is ready. The impossible is about to become your new normal. Can you feel it building? Right now, in this moment, there's a frequency rising in your system, not metaphorically, literally. Your heart rate has shifted. Your breathing has changed. There's an energy moving through your body that wasn't there when you started reading. This is your quantum mind recognizing itself in these words, activating in response to information that matches its true frequency. The quantum field operates on resonance. When two frequencies match, they amplify each other. What you're feeling right now is your quantum mind resonating with the frequency of impossibility made possible. It's not coming from these words. The words are just catalysts. The frequency is coming from within you, responding to the recognition that you're finally receiving validation for what you've always known but were taught to doubt. In physics, there's a phenomenon called quantum tunneling, where particles pass through barriers that classical physics says should be impenetrable. The particle doesn't have enough energy to overcome the barrier, yet it appears on the other side anyway. Scientists can measure it. They can predict it. They can use it in technology. but they can't explain it with classical laws because it operates by quantum laws that transcend the limitations of physical barriers. Your quantum mind works the same way. The impossible things you want to attract, the ones that seem blocked by lack of money, lack of connections, lack of opportunity, lack of credentials, your quantum mind can tunnel through all of those barriers. Not by overcoming them through force or effort, but by operating at a frequency where the barriers simply don't exist. By accessing the quantum level of reality, where impossibilities are just unexpressed possibilities, waiting for the right consciousness to collapse them into form. But here's what's happening in your body right now that's preparing you for this quantum tunneling ability. Your vagus nerve, the main channel of communication between your brain and your body, is entering a state of coherence. Dr. Stephen Porges's research shows that when the vagus nerve is in ventral vagal activation, your entire nervous system enters a state where you're simultaneously alert and relaxed, engaged and surrendered, focused and flowing. This is the state where attraction happens without effort. This is the frequency where impossibilities become possible. And you're entering this state right now. Not because I'm inducing it through words, but because your quantum mind recognizes that it's safe to come fully online. That the information you're receiving matches a truth your consciousness has been waiting to hear. That you're finally in an environment, even if it's just the digital space of watching this video, where your quantum abilities are validated rather than dismissed. The Kabbalists describe 10 Sephirot, 10 emanations through which the infinite becomes finite, through which the impossible becomes manifest. The final Sephira, Malkuth, represents physical reality. But Malkuth doesn't create itself. It receives from Yesod, the foundation of mental imagery and subconscious patterns. And Yesod receives from higher Sephirot all the way up to Keter, the crown, pure consciousness, infinite possibility. What this means in practical terms: physical reality, what appears possible or impossible, is not the source, it's the result. It's the last link in a chain that starts with pure consciousness, your quantum mind, and flows through layers of manifestation until it reaches the physical. When you try to change physical reality directly, you're working at the wrong level. You're trying to change the reflection instead of changing what's being reflected. But when you work at the quantum level, when you activate your quantum mind to attract from the space of infinite possibility before it crystallizes into finite form, you're working with the source. And the source doesn't know the word impossible. The source only knows infinite potential waiting to be selected, collapsed, and manifested by consciousness. There's something I discovered during the darkest night of my soul. During a moment when everything seemed impossible, when every door seemed closed, when logic and reason told me there was no way forward. Something that changed not just my circumstances, but my entire relationship with reality. Something that your quantum mind is ready to understand because you've been prepared for it through every experience you've had up until this moment. But before I reveal what I discovered, before I show you the specific mechanism through which your quantum mind attracts impossibilities, you need to understand the journey that led me there. Because the discovery only makes sense in the context of impossible odds, apparently insurmountable obstacles, and a reality that seemed determined to prove that what I wanted couldn't happen. Feel the anticipation building in your chest. Notice how your awareness has sharpened, how your attention has focused, how something in you knows that what comes next is important. This is your quantum mind preparing to receive information that it's been seeking. Information that will activate dormant capabilities, information that will shift your relationship with possibility itself. Stay with me. What comes next will challenge everything you think you know about attraction, about manifestation, about the nature of possibility and impossibility. And if you're ready, if your quantum mind has brought you to this exact moment because it knows you're prepared for this activation, then what I'm about to share will be the catalyst for the most profound transformation of your life. 4 years ago, I was facing a situation that was, by every rational measure, impossible to resolve. I needed $50,000 in 30 days or I would lose everything: my home, my business, my reputation. I had no savings, no credit, no wealthy relatives, no obvious solutions. Every door I knocked on closed. Every person I asked for help said no. Every logical path led to a dead end. I remember sitting on the floor of my apartment at 3 a.m., calculator in hand, trying for the 100th time to make the numbers work, trying to find some combination of actions, some sequence of events that would make the impossible possible. But math is math. Reality is reality. I didn't have the money, I couldn't get the money, and time was running out. That night, something in me broke. Not emotionally. Emotionally, I was already broken. What broke was my grip on reality itself. I stopped trying to figure it out. I stopped trying to force solutions. I stopped trying to make the impossible possible through effort and strategy. I just surrendered completely to the impossibility itself. And in that surrender, something extraordinary happened. My mind became completely still, not the forced stillness of meditation practice, not the suppressed chaos of trying to stay positive. Real stillness, the kind of stillness where there's no one trying to be still, where the boundary between me and reality dissolved completely. In that stillness, I didn't have a vision, I didn't hear a voice, I didn't receive some divine download. What happened was simpler and more profound than that. I just knew. I knew with absolute certainty that the money would appear. Not hope, not faith, not positive thinking, knowing. The same way you know your name, the same way you know you exist. Unshakable, undoubtable, self-evident knowing. And here's the strange part, that knowing had nothing to do with how. I didn't know where the money would come from. I didn't have a plan. I didn't see the path. But the knowing wasn't about the path. It was about the destination being certain while the route remained mysterious. And in that moment of pure knowing, I felt my quantum mind fully activate for the first time in my life. 3 days later, I received an email from someone I had worked with 5 years earlier. Someone I hadn't thought about in years, who had no reason to contact me. The email said they had been thinking about me and felt compelled to reach out. Long story short, within a week, they had connected me with an opportunity that not only provided the $50,000 I needed, but opened doors I didn't even know existed. The rational mind wants to call this luck, coincidence, fortunate timing. But I know what really happened. My quantum mind, in that moment of complete surrender, accessed a timeline where the solution already existed. And by knowing it with such certainty, by embodying the frequency of the impossible already accomplished, I collapsed that timeline into physical reality. But here's what changed me forever. It wasn't the money. It was the recognition that impossibility is just a frequency. It's just a belief about what can and cannot happen. And when your quantum mind activates fully, when it operates without interference from doubt and limitation, it doesn't see impossible. It only sees unexpressed possibility waiting to collapse into form. After that experience, I became obsessed with understanding what had happened, not just intellectually but experientially. I wanted to learn how to access that state of quantum knowing consistently, not just in moments of crisis. I studied everything: quantum physics, neuroscience, ancient mysticism, consciousness research. I experimented constantly, testing the boundaries of what my quantum mind could attract. And I discovered something that nobody talks about in manifestation teachings. Something that completely inverts the conventional understanding of how attraction works. The impossible things that manifested weren't the ones I tried hardest to attract. They were the ones I knew with such certainty that I stopped trying. The ones where my quantum mind accessed a frequency of completion before the physical reality reflected it. I attracted a business partnership that people said was impossible. Brought together 3 people who had never met. created a collaboration that made no logical sense, generated opportunities that shouldn't have existed. I attracted healing from a chronic condition that doctors said was incurable, not through trying to heal, but through accessing a timeline where the condition had never existed. I attracted relationships, resources, opportunities that were all impossible according to logic and probability. But the most profound shift wasn't in what I attracted. It was in who I became. I stopped being someone who tries to manifest things. I became someone who knows things are already manifesting, who operates from the end result while the physical reality is catching up, who lives in the frequency of impossibilities already accomplished while the world is still calling them impossible. If you're still with me, if my story is resonating in your consciousness, not as inspiration, but as recognition, as a mirror reflecting back your own capacity that you've been afraid to fully claim, then your quantum mind has brought you here for a reason. You're not learning something new. You're remembering something ancient. You're not discovering abilities you don't have. You're activating abilities that have been dormant, waiting for this exact moment to come online. Subscribe to this channel right now, because here we don't talk about the impossible as if it's difficult. We talk about it as the natural domain of consciousness operating at quantum frequencies. We don't teach manifestation as a practice. We activate quantum minds to their full capacity. This is quantum reflex, where consciousness recognizes itself and reality reflects that recognition instantly. Now I'm going to tell you something that will completely shatter your understanding of attraction and make everything you've learned about manifestation obsolete. Ready? You cannot attract what doesn't already exist. Attraction is not creation. It's selection from infinite options that exist simultaneously in the quantum field right now. Every impossible thing you want, the perfect relationship, the financial abundance, the career breakthrough, the health transformation, the life circumstances that seem too good to be true, all of these already exist, not as future potentials that might happen, not as possibilities you need to create, but as actual realities existing right now in quantum superposition, waiting for a consciousness frequency match to collapse them into your physical experience. Dr. Hugh Everett's many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics proves this mathematically. Every possible outcome of every quantum event actually exists in parallel universes. Right now, there's a version of you living every possible life, a version that's wildly successful, a version that's deeply in love, a version that's perfectly healthy, a version that has everything you consider impossible. These aren't fantasies, they're actual realities existing in parallel to this one. And here's where it gets shocking. You're not trying to create these realities. You're trying to shift your consciousness to the frequency where these realities are your experienced timeline. Attraction isn't about making something happen. It's about tuning your quantum mind to the reality where it's already happened. But nobody tells you this. The manifestation industry is built on the lie that you need to do things, perform practices, accumulate energy, raise vibration through effort. And yes, those things can help, but they're not the mechanism. They're just tools that sometimes accidentally get you to the real mechanism, consciousness matching the frequency of a timeline that already exists. Think about how a radio works. When you tune to 98.5 FM, you don't create the music. The music already exists, broadcasting constantly at that frequency. You don't attract the music through desire or visualization or positive thinking. You simply tune your receiver to match the frequency where that music exists. And the moment the frequencies match, the music appears in your experience. Not because you created it, but because you aligned with where it already exists. Your quantum mind is the receiver. The impossible realities you want are the broadcasts. And the only reason you're not experiencing them is because your receiver is tuned to a different frequency. The frequency of limitation, of impossibility, of people like me don't get things like that. Dr. William Tiller proved this at Stanford through decades of research. He showed that consciousness can imprint intention into physical devices, and those devices can then affect physical reality at a distance. But more importantly, he proved that the effect gets stronger over time. Consciousness doesn't just influence reality once. It creates a field that becomes increasingly powerful with sustained coherence. What this means, when your quantum mind tunes to the frequency of an impossible reality and holds that frequency with coherence, you're not just aligning with that reality once. You're creating a sustained field that makes that reality increasingly inevitable. You're not pulling it toward you. You're becoming magnetically aligned with where it already exists, and physical reality reorganizes to reflect that alignment. The ancient Hermetic principle, as above, so below, isn't poetry. It's physics. The above, the quantum field where all possibilities exist, determines the below, physical reality where one possibility manifests. When you change the above through consciousness, the below must change to match. Not might change, not could change, must change. Because physical reality is the effect, not the cause. But here's the shocking part that no one wants to tell you. Most of what you've been taught about raising your vibration is counterproductive. Because trying to raise your vibration implies you're currently at a low vibration. And that implication, that belief that you need to become something different, is itself the low vibration you're trying to escape from. The impossible realities you want to attract don't require you to become worthy of them. They don't require you to heal all your trauma, clear all your blocks, become perfectly spiritual, or raise your consciousness to some enlightened state. They require you to recognize that your quantum mind is already at the frequency of those realities. You're not trying to arrive somewhere. You're trying to recognize you're already there. Neville Goddard taught this with perfect clarity. You must assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Not work toward it, not hope for it, not try to deserve it. Assume it. Meaning, take it as a given. Meaning, recognize it as already true. Meaning, tune your quantum mind to the frequency where it's already your reality. And when you do this, when you stop trying to attract the impossible and start recognizing that your quantum mind is already aligned with it, something extraordinary happens. Physical reality starts catching up. Not slowly, not gradually, but in quantum leaps. Events that should take years happen in weeks. Connections that should be impossible appear effortlessly. Resources that shouldn't exist materialize from nowhere. Because you're not making them happen. You're allowing them to happen. You're not creating a new reality. You're shifting to a reality that already exists. You're not attracting the impossible. You're recognizing that your quantum mind was always designed to access what others call impossible as naturally as breathing. Right now, this moment, the quantum field is sending you unmistakable signals that you're ready to attract impossibilities. These aren't subtle hints you need to interpret. These are clear confirmations that your quantum mind has reached the activation threshold where impossibility becomes your new normal. The first signal is what I call impossible synchronicities. You're experiencing coincidences that are so statistically improbable that mathematical probability can't explain them. You think of someone you haven't seen in 15 years, and they email you that day. You need specific information, and you randomly open a book to the exact page that contains it. You wonder about something, and a stranger in line at the store starts talking about that exact topic without any prompting. These aren't coincidences. They're your quantum mind proving to you that it can access information and organize events beyond the limitations of cause and effect. Dr. Dean Radin's research shows that experienced meditators can influence random systems before the random events even occur, affecting the past from the present. What you're experiencing is your consciousness operating outside linear time. accessing the quantum field where past, present, and future exist simultaneously. The second signal is reality glitching. You're noticing small inconsistencies in physical reality that shouldn't be possible. Objects appearing in places you know you didn't put them. Conversations you remember having that the other person has no memory of. Experiences that feel like déjà vu but more intense, like you're remembering something that already happened in a timeline you haven't consciously lived yet. These glitches happen when your consciousness begins shifting between parallel realities. You're not imagining them. You're experiencing the quantum phenomenon that physicists call quantum decoherence, where multiple realities that exist in superposition begin to separate as your consciousness collapses into specific timelines. You're becoming aware of the multiverse not as theory, but as lived experience. The third signal is accelerated manifestation. Things you intend are appearing faster than they used to. The gap between thought and physical reality is shrinking. What used to take months now takes weeks. What used to take weeks now takes days. And in some cases, thoughts are manifesting within hours or even minutes of being thought with clarity and feeling. This acceleration happens because your quantum mind is reaching coherence. Dr. Joe Dispenza's research shows that when the heart and brain enter coherent states, they generate electromagnetic fields that can be measured several feet outside the body. And these coherent fields directly influence the quantum field, collapsing possibilities into physical form with increasing speed as coherence strengthens. But here's the signal that confirms